What's this slime got to do with navigation? Well, it's slime mold, part fungi and part single-celled animal. A Japanese researcher left it in a maze with food at either end. He expected it to fill all the available space, which it did. But to his amazement, it contracted over time until it filled only the shortest route to the food. So it had, you could say, navigated the puzzle. In the western Pacific, a tropical cyclone is blowing up. It's enough to drive all the shipping into harbour. But it also provides an unusual form of transport.
Torn away from land and floating through the empty ocean, this tree is actually a passenger liner, but one with a non-paying guest. This gecko must simply hang on in the hope of eventually reaching land. But the Pacific covers half of the whole world. Despite being dotted with thousands of small islands, the chances of finding one are remote. But luck shines down on this little gecko. Land ho off the port bow. The gecko takes its chances and swims off towards its new home. Even this single gecko can bear a new generation. Reproducing asexually, she can generate enough offspring to create her own dynasty. Some plants also use the power of the wind and the waves. Coconuts are perfectly designed for this kind of long-distance travel, and they're willing to wait in order to survive. Once this buoyant bundle of life finds land, it grows into a tree. It's events like these that have filled the Pacific Islands with their flora and fauna. Over millions of years, the migrants have created lush, tropical paradises. But the same winds that brought life to the islands also brought other travellers. "2,000 years before Columbus crossed the Atlantic, people were already crossing the even greater Pacific. These people eventually spread across the whole ocean and became known as the Polynesians. Without the aid of a compass or a map, they made epic journeys over the world's largest expanse of water. They navigated by the stars at night. By day, they gauged where they were by the position of the sun. They acquired detailed knowledge of ocean currents and swells. Their journeys would often last for weeks or even months. So they filled their boats with provisions, taking everything they needed to create a new life elsewhere. Frigate birds hunt offshore and were a sign that land was nearby. Dolphins, seeking shelter from the open ocean, would guide them in. The Polynesians believed that over every horizon lay a new home, richer and more bountiful than the last, a place they could call their own. And after months at sea, reaching land was a time for profound thankfulness and celebration. It was as if they'd arrived in paradise. The flora and fauna which had floated or flown there on its own would then be reshaped by the animals and plants the new people introduced. And so the Polynesians, navigators par excellence without even a magnetic lodestone to point them on their way, helped create the rich mix of island wildlife that we see today. The bright red feathers of the Fijian cooler bird were highly prized by the Polynesians, who used them for decorations. They were traded across all the Polynesian islands. Even on Samoa, which has no cooler birds at all, the feathers were in constant demand.